How you doing, guys? Welcome to the show. So today I have a great guest, Richard Cooper. For those of you guys who've been living under a rock, I don't know who Richard Cooper is. He is a multi-millionaire entrepreneur, and he's been red pilling men by the tens of thousands. And he just released his new book, The Unplugged Alpha: The No Bullshit Guide to Winning with Women and Life. Richard, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me.
So, Richard, my audience is a little bit different than the usual manosphere red pill crowd because my website normally deals with travel. It's kind of like the biggest resource online in men's travel. So we kind of have a wide scope of people listening. Mm-hmm. For those who may not know what the red pill is, could you explain it in your own words, what it means to you?
I just refer to it as the uncomfortable truth, right? It's a theme taken from The Matrix, from the first one, where Morpheus offers two pills to Neo. One's red, one's blue. And essentially the blue is you plug back into the lies and sleepwalk through life. And it's all the comforting lies that we've been sold as men. And the red pill just wakes you up from that. So that's the uncomfortable truth of the world that we live in.
Hence the name, the title of your book, The Unplugged Alpha, obviously a reference to the red pill.
Right.
So give us your journey. In your book, I'll just pull it up here. Actually, I think I have it on a screenshot here. Yes, there we go. Oops, sorry, lad. Yeah, nice. 323 reviews already and 5 stars, man. That's impressive. Fair play to you. First of all, actually, congratulations, man. I know how hard it is to write a book. It's a slog. How long did it take you?
Too long. 3 years.
Yeah,
took me a while, yeah.
I just released a book in March as well, and that was like 3.5, 4 years. I mean, the editing process alone, how long did that take you? Just working with the copy editor?
Well, I just wrote it, and then I gave it to the editor, and he cleaned it up. So I'm not a very good writer, if I'm being honest, when it comes to speed and efficiency. I mean, I can strap my GoPro to my windshield and drive for 20 minutes and belt out some of the best shit that most people have seen, but to sit there and like type for chapter after chapter, it just doesn't flow as well for me. So it was a different process.
And how many drafts did you go through?
A lot. Yeah.
Listen, I know all about it, but I've rewritten a line 10 times before. So start us off with your journey. How did you kind of get into this space? Because I've been doing this. I've been in the I guess manosphere, or whatever you want to call it, for 10 years, but you're kind of relatively new. I say relatively new. I think of like the likes of Rolo and Roosh and all these guys, but you've exploded because you had your channel Entrepreneuring in Cars originally started off as kind of a business channel, and you kind of drifted in, I would say, cruised in to the red pill space. So tell us a bit about your journey and
well, I didn't know this space existed at all. Actually, I was kind of forced into it when I was at a men's retreat. It's around 2014 or 15 or so. I can't remember, but I was just dealing with a bunch of shit. Like my business was not doing well. I had creditors and financial institutions basically petition the government to change laws to put the entire industry out of business. So I was dealing with lobbyists. It was just a nightmare. I was also going through a divorce at the time too. And I had also had quite a bit of difficulty with a single mommy that I started dating after my divorce. And it was at that point where I was at this, high-end men's retreat out in Spokane, Washington, in the middle of the woods. And this dude and I are just shooting the shit over breakfast one day. And he's, we're just talking about women. And then, I don't know, after about 5 or 10 minutes of me telling some of the stories, he's like, you got to read this book, The Rational Male by Rollo Tomasi. Like, this is not good. So I just downloaded the audiobook and listened to it on the flight back. And then I ripped through it like 2 or 3 more times after that. And I was just like, oh, okay, this all makes sense now. I'm starting to see the code in the Matrix. I still had the YouTube channel at the time, but it was kind of convenient because I started to run out of friends to do interviews with in their cool cars. Because I initially started up the channel Entrepreneurs in Cars to interview friends in their success rides so they could kind of dispense some worldly wisdom. But very quickly, after about 5 or 6 episodes, I ran out of friends with cool cars that, I could sit down and, actually have a decent conversation with. And somebody said in the comments, because I was doing videos, just like random stuff, like how to hire people with parties and how you use lawyers, in your business. And I was really big on culture at the time and all that. And he goes, you should do a video on the kind of women to avoid dating. And I'm like, all right, let's do this one. And that one just blew up. It was just like insane. It just got like 100,000 views in like a few days. And most of my videos at the time were doing less than 1,000. It was just a joke.
Yeah, we'll get into the red flags later, because that's you got the 20 red flags in your book, which this is why I wanted to have you on, because the last guy I had on he climbed Mount Everest and he did the 7 summits, completely different guests. And I usually deal with John Beatty.
Oh, that's funny, because I actually know another guy that summited the 7 summits that I was at the EO forum with. Yeah.
And there's only like about 300. Apparently, it's neck and neck with the amount of people who've been into space.
Yeah, it's a very small club.
Yeah. I know a guy, an Irish guy, who's visited every country, and he's about to finish. He's been to North and South Pole, and now he's about to finish the 7 summits. So it's a whole other breed of person. So going back to your story, I went a bit off topic there, but you tell us a bit about your business background.
About 2003, I started a business in credit card debt relief. So we were saving people a ton of money, getting out of credit card debt. And it was a process that was faster and more friendlier to their credit bureau than something like a bankruptcy or credit counseling. So that business grew very, very quickly. I got a lot of awards for hypergrowth, met a lot of very interesting people, got involved with Entrepreneurs Organization. I started mentoring startup entrepreneurs. But what ends up happening when you start saving people a ton of money to get out of debt is the banks will start to take notice of it, and they don't like that, because their entire business model is keep you broke and keep you in debt as long as possible. So all of that basically churned into a giant headache for me over a number of years, and tied into a divorce and all the other stuff. So that's really where like the origin stories of the business came from. But I mean, it wasn't the first business. Like I did a lot of stuff when I was a kid. Like even when I was, I think, 8 or 9, I used to contract out part of my paper route. So I'd have a friend help me out, and I'd pay him a little bit, and I'd
how's innovative
top sort of thing. Yeah.
That's brilliant. And curious, so you were successful in business, and what made you decide to start a YouTube channel?
I just thought it would be fun. I actually wanted to, like, I've always been a car guy. So I used to watch Top Gear, when the 3 Plebs were doing that. And now they're on the Amazon Prime channel doing a grand tour. And I just kind of wanted to do something along like, driving fast cars and just doing fun shit and being a child again. Right. And actually getting an automotive channel off the ground on YouTube is a lot harder than you think. Getting access to cars, the production, the editing, all that stuff. It's just an insane amount of work. Yeah, it's just an insane amount of work. Like most people that do it usually end up stopping just because it's not cost effective.
It sounds like something you might consider in the future.
I might. I mean, I might do a little bit more, around cars. I mean, I never changed the channel name. I always left it as Entrepreneurs in Cars, just because I didn't really see the point. Like the channel can be whatever it wants as far as I'm concerned. There's lots of channels out there with bizarre names that you wouldn't associate to what the content is on the channel too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and the problem is, like when I pick the name Naughty Nomad, you find yourself in a box when you pick the name as well. And there's no reason why you can't go out of the box and try something different. You shouldn't limit yourself. This is what I was thinking of earlier. So I said I got John Beatty on the show. And the reason why I wanted to have you on is because I have an audience of young guys traveling the world, kind of living their best life. And I think the advice you have to offer is really crucial for young men before they make any big decisions, like before they start a family or get married. Red flags are so important. So guys who are watching this, definitely pick up the Unplugged Alpha, because it's chock full of wisdom. We'll get to red flags to avoid with women in a while. Mm-hmm. But before that, what would you, if you were, by the way, as well, guys, Richard, he talks about not only his money, I say you're ripped, man, as well. I saw some pictures of you online. Like, you're pretty jacked as well. How old are you?
47.
And I was listening, you do TRT, right?
Yeah, I started testosterone replacement therapy about 3 maybe years ago or so. But to be honest with you, it really hasn't changed my physique that much. It just managed to keep me to where I wanted to be around, like 30 years old. Yeah, it's a nice little tweak, and I even talk about that in the book as well. There's a chapter dedicated to managing your testosterone levels and why that's really important for men.
Yeah, I watched. I think it was today. Was it today or yesterday? You had a whole video. You're talking about like what products to use.
Oh yeah,
All
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah. That was last night on a series that I run called Before the Train Wreck, because guys really do make a big train wreck out of their lives. So I tend to hit on topics that help men not do that dumb stuff.
I love the Before the Train Wreck series. It's just it's crucial advice that guys need to adhere to. What would so young guys watching this? If you could give like 5 tips to young men to sort themselves out in their mid-20s, what would be kind of 5 lessons that you tell your younger self?
Well, if you're a straight male, you need to figure out women, because they're not what you think they are. They're not sugar and spice and all things nice. And there's a lot of mines out there that are hidden under the ground that you're going to step on if you don't watch yourself. So I mean, first and foremost is understanding true female nature, like what women really are. That's a very, very long conversation, and I've got, I don't know how many videos on my channel. I think there's close to 1,000, and probably I'm going to say 90% of them are dedicated to mostly that topic, like not screwing up your life, especially around women.
Like in terms of, you said you went through divorce. I know you have a daughter. Was there any moments that you were like red pilled? Was it more the single mommy, or was it your marriage, or was there any moment where you thought, oh, things aren't, reality isn't what I thought it was?
Well, marriage wasn't what I thought it would be, so we can start with that, because, with marriage, you think, oh, you find the best partner that you can get, you settle down, have your kids and your family and your white picket fence and everything will be fine. And it's like Leave It to Beaver sort of thing, which is going to kind of date me, because I know some of you guys are going to Google what's Leave It to Beaver. But I mean, like, you'll get the idea when you see it, but it's like the ideal, family, basically. I thought I found the perfect girl. She was a lawyer. She was a high achiever, all that blah, blah, blah good stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Lawyer, I can see where this is going.
Yeah. So there was a lot of surprises, because things change for men in longer term relationships and marriages. Most of the time, it's women like beta-tizing males, even though they're not trying to do it, but they legitimately turn men into something that they don't really want to be around. And it's no surprise, because I mean, like 50% of marriages fail, and then it's the other 50% that stay together. And one of the stats that I put in the book that I can, talk about is, they did a lot of studies on long-term relationships with people. And I think the average time of the participants in the study was something like 8.39 years or something like that. Take a guess what the percentage of the people after that period of time were still living in like a state of bliss or obsession with one another.
Bliss. Oh God, I'd say 0.
It was like,
1%.
It was like 2.5%. So
that's quite high, actually.
So there's that. But I mean, like, you're a little bit more red pilled than the average guy, right? Like, I've talked to other people and they're like, I don't know, like 15, 20%, something like that. So there's that part. And then the other part was, what percentage of people do you think after that same period of time are still in love?
Ooh, that's a better question. So we're talking with, all right, this is out of the 50% who stay together, right? I would actually venture to say 30%.
It's like 12.
Oof, that's how long is this after?
About 8.39 years, I think it was. So I mean, the thing you got to understand is it's kind of hard to maintain desire over a long period of time, and humans really aren't very good at monogamy. And there's also a good chunk of people that stay together that, I mean, you could chalk it up into different categories. They're either not good looking enough to leave their partner because they've let themselves go. They might be too broke and can't leave. They're codependent. Maybe they're cowards. There's a whole bunch of reasons why people might stay together, even though they don't actually like each other. So marriages and long-term relationships on a monogamous basis are really, really hard to manage. And that's probably about 2 of the chapters combined right there in the book.
Yeah. And I definitely think for guys watching, especially in the North American context, I mean, like I lived in the States for 2 years, and it's just, you'd have to go through 100 girls just to find one who's maybe worth a second date. They're just so broken over there. Like, no, most of my audience are America, so they know what I'm talking about. But the daddy issues and oh god, it's a train wreck over there, and the Western Europe is following. So would you advise guys to like look outside America if they were thinking of having a family? Because it's all another thing about America is the laws, the family courts and stuff, and you get divorce raped over there. In Ireland, divorce was illegal when I was a kid. Imagine. So I kind of didn't really grow up with a lot of divorce around, but I imagine over there it's just I don't understand how people get married in America at all.
Yeah, I mean, like for the most part, like a lot of people still think that marriage is about love, but it was never about love. There's an author by the name of Stephanie Coots that wrote a book called Marriage: A History, and really the too long didn't read version of it is people got married for the acquisition of in-laws because there wasn't that much state involvement in their lives, right? So there was no education, there was no care for the elderly, there was no medical assistance. Like there was a lot of things that were totally absent for many, many years when marriage first started. It was really about, merging two families and kind of blending them. So a lot of the times, even if it didn't work out, if they didn't love each other, it didn't matter. They would just mostly, for the most part, stay, but they would just start banging other people outside of the relationship. If the relationship broke down, quite often the guy actually got the better hand. So she would leave. He would most often keep all of the assets that she brought to the table, the land, the farm, the oxen, the chickens, whatever. And he would often have care of the children too. But the script's been like flipped quite a bit now. And most people don't understand, men especially, don't understand how hostile divorce is towards men. I had no idea. Like I was just like, you know what? It's not working out. Let's just get divorced.
It's what the thing is, and most guys don't know this. And for those listening, like I have a lot of friends in Ireland, and like the prenups don't exist in Ireland, or they're not worth the paper they're printed on. But a lot of guys don't realize that it's not just that you lose half. It's whatever your earnings is and her earnings are, you split the difference. So if you're earning 30 grand a year, she's earning 10 grand a year. You have to fork over, she needs to be on the equivalent of 20. So you need to fork over 20 a year then to make up for it. It's not just half your assets. It's right. It's half of everything. And it keeps going as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, like as you keep going, like you start to learn that women get 80% of the custody orders, which means the deal that most guys end up getting is they see their money leave, like they see their wealth leave them, going to their ex-wife, while she uses the money to alienate him from his own children, because she usually has the kids more often. So quite often, guys will see some other dude raising his kids, spending more time with his own children than he has the ability to do, and all he's doing is he's funding that lifestyle for them.
Oh man, that's painful. This is why I always recommend guys to look outside the West if they were thinking about having a family, where the laws are more favorable, the women are more feminine, and you're less likely to get into that situation. I mean, I presume most of your audience are American, so would you ever advise guys to be looking outside?
The mistake that they make is they'll look outside and then they'll bring them back. And then
classic mistake, man.
2 to 3 years later, they just end up with another standard, Western woman that is just imported from some foreign country that might have been first, second, or third world. So, I mean, if you want to have kids and you want to go abroad, just go there and stay there is what I would say, and find a country where women value men, where femininity is still common, where masculinity is appreciated, where men are still at the head of the household, where there's the least amount of toxic feminism that's infiltrated, society. Social justice is like something that they laugh at because it's on the news, and they see, Western news and they laugh at that sort of thing. That's the kind of place that you want to go. I mean, like you can do it in the West still. It's just that you expose yourself to so much risk. And even if you do everything that you possibly can to minimize the risk along the way, and there's quite a few things that you can do, women still reserve the right to change their mind at any given time. And the laws are still going to be hostile against you to some degree or another, depending on what precautionary steps you put in place. So there's no foolproof way to have a family and children today.
But are prenups, they're legal in the States, right? Or how effective are they? Do you mind me asking? Or depend on the state? Or
well, it depends on a bunch of factors. It depends on where it's written. if like a lot of people say that prenups aren't worth the paper that they're written on, or that, you know, the judge just uses it as toilet paper and throws it out, sort of thing. But I mean, if you present a prenup to your fiance a week before the wedding day, then she's signing it basically under duress, and of course the judge is going to throw it out. So you have to lay up to it basically before the invitations go out for the wedding. You have the prenup signed. Ideally, you want a postnup signed. So after you say I do and you have the wedding ceremony and all that shit and the honeymoon, you come back, then you have a postnuptial agreement signed, which basically solidifies what it is that you proposed 6-12 months ago, you know, when you were setting up for the wedding. But even that doesn't really hold that much water, because let's say, you know, you're a high income earning guy and you're making $200,000 a year, and she was making, I don't know, $40,000 work, you know, you're working at the front reception desk at the insurance company. So you decide to have kids. She gets knocked up. Well, guess what? She's a mommy. She's got all the girl parts. Of course, she's going to stay home and raise the kids. So she's just given up her $40,000 a year job while you're still doing your thing. If she now does that for the next 8 years, and then decides after, let's just say after the 8.39 years, you know, that the average length of those relationships lasted, she says, you know what? I think I want to go out there and sow my wild oats again. And, you know, all of my friends are getting divorced, and we watched Eat, Pray, Love together one night and had some popcorn and smashed back wine, and we think we can do better. So she has a conversation with her husband like, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I want a divorce. Then guess what? That prenup's not worth anything, probably, because she's been a stay-at-home mom for the last 8.5 years. And she's going to say something along the lines of, well, my skills are no longer relevant, so I need him to support me, which is hilarious, because usually during the marriage, women are like, I don't need no man. You can't tell me what to do. I can take care of myself, blah, blah, blah. But as soon as they go through the divorce machine and they're in court, it's, I need, you know, his money. I can't support myself, you know, by myself. The children need blah, 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 you know, resources. So like, women are very moldable to the environment that they're in. Are you familiar with the concept of war brides?
No, I say I've heard the term online, but I don't know I forget the definition. I know Rolo uses that term a lot.
Yeah, so war brides is a very interesting concept, because like thousands of years ago, or even tens of thousands of years ago, you know, if there's a warring tribe that conquered a village or a nation or whatever, they would kill off the men in battle, as many as they could. Any men that survived battle, they would either put into slavery, or if they refused to be slaves, then they would kill them off. So they'd basically get rid of anything that was hostile. The women, on the other hand, were valued because they could, you know, they could be used for sex, for childbearing, you know, for all that stuff. So they would bring the women into their tribe. So women then became war brides, which was the byproduct of that conflict, of those clashes. So women will adapt and mold very, very quickly. I mean, it's one of the reasons why women get over breakups so much quicker. Like, you see guys crying about shit 8 months later, 18 months later. They don't shut up about it, you know, half the time. But women, it's like, you know, they break up, 24 hours later, they're back on the carousel on, you know, over at Kevin from Sales House, you know, banging him.
Kevin from Sales always is that bastard.
That guy gets around now, I'll tell you.
we've a good question here.
Yeah.
So how about a Christian girl? Does the church offer counterbalance to feminist culture? And Rolo just wrote a whole book on this.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, grab his new book on religion, but no, it's not a buffer. You know, it's like saying, well, marriage is a buffer to me always having sex. Then the next logical thought becomes, well, if she's a good Christian girl, then of course, you know, we're never going to get divorced. There's certain scenarios where religion can be beneficial. Like, there's obviously a lower rate of divorce in Mormon circles, you know, for example. Or
even a Muslim, if you marry a Khaliji girl or something like that.
Yeah, like it still exists. So I mean, the threat is still there. I mean, there's an old trope that goes something like, not all women will destroy a man in court when it comes to divorce law, but all women can, right? So you can't think for a sec, oh, because she's a good Christian girl, she's not going to do this to me. I've had coaching calls with men that were that got married to a conservative woman that her family and her always voted Republican. They were good Christian people, blah, blah, blah. Parents were always together. Brothers and sisters got married, all had kids, were all together, all that sort of stuff. And his wife starts working in the HR department of the local city hall. She cuts her hair short. She dyes it purple. She puts on weight. She starts putting tattoos up and down her arms and stuff like that. And then she starts to look like your typical feminist, right? So by the time he's going through the divorce machine, she's gone from the good conservative Christian, type of woman to the typical woman that's like, I don't need no man, but I'm still going to take all of his shit.
And this alludes to what you mentioned previously about the war bride thing, about how malleable females are, and that also counts for ideology as well. I mean, women will switch religions or change ideology based on what best suits their survival or their access to resources.
It's not a bug in the code; it's a feature. It's a good thing. It's how women adapt to survive for her and her children. Because if she didn't develop that skill of adaptation to become a war bride, or if her husband was useless as a provider, couldn't keep down a job or whatever, she could untie the knot and leave and go find some other guy to take care of her and her kids. Like, it's a feature of female nature. So you just have to understand what it is. Like, it's not to disparage women or to say that it's bad or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's for men to understand that it exists.
And that's another thing. Like, a lot of people perceive the whole red pill thing as a negative thing, but it's not at all. In fact, I would consider it quite positive. Because it's just exposing men to reality, and reality is steeped in evolutionary biology and evolutionary psychology and the survival of the genes. And sometimes it's ugly, yes. Sometimes it's unpleasant, but men need to face up to reality and engage with this kind of content so they're better informed to make better life decisions, rather than living in this bubble or this, idyllic world, have this idyllic world view that'll end in tragedy for them if they don't play their cards right.
Yeah.
You read, I also heard on a podcast that you read Jack Donovan's The Way of Men. I've had him on the podcast before, actually. Fascinating book.
Mm-hmm.
The what did you, out of all the reading you've done since you've entered the space, what has been most, apart from obviously Rollo Tomasi's book, The Rational Male, what else has been influential for you?
Oh, Evo Psych, 100%. Like, anything that I've gone through that's evolutionary psychology based, because that kind of takes like the red pill concepts and then just kind of peppers all kinds of science sauce on it. And data starts to pour in and you're like, yeah, no kidding. Wow. No shit. Really? Okay. A lot of Evo Psych is very interesting for me. Like, David Buss has put out a lot of stuff, what women want, why women have sex. When you start to look at even Chris Ryan's stuff, like Sex at Dawn, the nature of monogamy with humans, there's lots of interesting reads out there. And for the most part, a lot of stuff that we've been told as guys is really just not true.
Yeah, the only, like, I've met Chris actually in New York. The only issue I had with Chris Ryan's work is the idea that jealousy is a social construct. He alludes to that. I think it's, no, I don't think so. And I think that's where that side of things and the poly side of, because I used to be non-monogamous. I used to be into I used to espouse the whole poly ideology. I mean, I use Chris Ryan's book as almost a script for my first date to get women in the sack. Oh yeah, and sleep with multiple women and stuff. But till I realized that there's something that's a little bit off about his paradigm, and that is the whole jealousy component. I don't know whether that comes from.
Yeah, there's another Evo Psych guy that has an open marriage that lets other guys pound his wife. Jeffrey
Black
Miller.
Dragon, or sorry.
No, well, yeah, like, he's another one. So that's another flaw in his structure. But Jeffrey Miller's another Evo Psych guy that's like, oh, you have to eroticize your jealousy. Well, men and women get jealous for different reasons. Women get jealous because they feel like you're going to remove attention, resources, and protection from them, and that will go to somebody else. Men get jealous because we have no assurance of paternity. So when a woman gets pregnant, she knows it's her kid. When a guy sees his woman potentially get pregnant, he's going to assume it's his kid, but truthfully, he doesn't know. So cuckoldry is something that I deal with in my book as well, too. And the instances of cuckoldry, and for those of you guys that don't know what it is, it's basically you raising another man's child. So you could be considered a cuck if you date a single mom, because you're essentially raising another man's children. You could be a cuck if she goes to Vegas, and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas for the weekend, and she gets goes to pound down with Tyrone and Chad and comes back knocked up, and then you raise that kid. So The problem with getting honest data on it, it's pretty hard because women by nature have to be deceptive to cuck their husband's boyfriend, or, you know, point at somebody and go, "You're the father," right? But data starts to pop up in different places that start to present some information. So, as an example, and I put this in the book, I think the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto kept a lot of data based on children's genetic deficiencies, and they started to notice a pattern that in some cases parents would bring in the kid and it would have some disorder, and then they would have to genetically test the parents and draw their blood and just, you know, see if the gene was there that would contribute to this particular disorder. And in some cases they would find, well, of course the mom would have it, but in some cases they would find that the father didn't have it. So it was impossible for that man to be the father of the child. So even though he's been playing the role of the father, he's been married to her and he's been raising this kid, which he thought was his own. They don't even tell the guy, but they'll talk to the mother about it separately. They'll have a conversation, sweep it under the rug. But they started to, keep this data. And somewhere between 10 and 30% of children born to guys, the guys are cucked. It's actually not their kid.
10 to 30%.
Yeah.
That's insane.
30% would be on the high end, but the numbers exist. I mean, the chances could be, 1 in 10, 3 in 10. I mean, you can call it whatever the hell you want, but the chances—
even 10% is crazy.
Yeah, it's insane because, I mean, like, the benefit to having kids to men is, well, I'm passing on my DNA. It's the child's got my last name. I've done my duty. I've scattered my seed, right? Like, that is why we're on this earth. This is scatter seed. So if you've been deceived into believing that you've been cucked, oh man. And it's funny because as soon as you start talking to women about this, it's like, well, that doesn't matter who the father is, right? It's like, no, it does matter, right? So that's why men and women get jealous for different reasons. Like, men get jealous because they want assurance of paternity in their woman. So they want to know that she's sexually monogamous with him.
Yeah, and women get jealous because they see the potential for you sharing your resources with—
loss of it.
Yeah, exactly.
More specifically, like, I'm going to withdraw it from you and it's going to go to Becky over here now.
And guys, let me tell you something. The whole cuckoldry thing, you would be shocked at how easy it is to get a woman to cheat. Like, I've been in bars where a girl be with her fella and we make eyes, and 5 minutes later she's going down on me in the bathroom, even if it's just a 5-minute visit to the jacks. Like, I've had— so I don't know if you know my history. I used to travel around the world dressed like a Mexican pirate, basically, and I was really into game, peacocking. My skills are pretty dope. But the stuff I saw when I was in the heat of— we used to like go around with sombreros and swords. Women went crazy for it. But the amount of girls who would just sneak off to the bathroom or sneak down an alleyway, that's what really red pilled me. And you'd lose your faith in your humanity seeing some of the stuff I've seen. And when you're exposed to this kind of red pill content, guys, it's shocking. I think, was it you who interviewed a male stripper?
Yep, I had a male stripper on my Before the Trainwreck series,
that podcast,
the Monday before last one, and he was telling us all the stories of infidelity. Something like 30% of women, if I recall correctly, would cheat on their husbands, boyfriends, whatever, while they were out.
And that story is like, one of his mates, he had bought 7 women from the bachelor party into the room and just took his turns. Yep,
there was a lineup at the door of these women waiting to go to Pound Town with the stripper.
Yeah, guys, I'm sure this makes for uncomfortable listening right now. But
sorry, guys, I haven't got rainbows and butterflies for you. All I have is the uncomfortable truth.
But guys, we're only doing this because we love you, and we're trying to take care of you and prevent you from making mistakes. So, not to say there's plenty of good girls out there if you want to raise a family with, but you need to be aware of the red flags. And that perfectly segues into— let's talk about red flags, because you cover them in abundance in your book. I know you have like 20 in there. There's no need to go through all of them. But if you could say, like, what are the biggest 5 maybe that you think are the most important in terms of red flags to avoid when meeting women?
If you're talking about a longer term relationship than
mother of your children, let's say.
Okay, if you're talking like mother of your children, yeah. Okay, so I would definitely stay away from women with daddy issues. They usually have a fear of abandonment. Oftentimes they'll act out in a way that will ensure said abandonment. They've got personality disorders. A lot of the times they might be on SSRIs or antidepressants. You just don't want to invite that kind of a nightmare into your life. Women that throw hissy fits, that don't have the social maturity to deal with conflict in a relationship, and they just spaz out. Like when I'm talking about a hissy fit, I'm talking about like when you see a kid throw itself down on the ground and then kick and scream with its fists and its legs on the ground because it's not getting its way. Women do throw hissy fits. They're often in a slightly different way, but the response mechanism isn't that much different. It's just a more adult, sort of version. So I've got 20 of the red flags in that part of the chapter. You guys can actually read the 20 red flags for free. If you go to my website, go to entrepreneursandcars.com/red-flags, and you can download that chapter for free, or, just grab the book. It's like less than $10 on Amazon now.
Yeah, I always say the biggest red flag for me is always the daddy's issue thing. I found that, especially living in America, if she doesn't have a good relationship with her father, or she didn't even know her father, that's a recipe for disaster, because basically what she will try to do, because they didn't have that male approval, that male attention when they're younger, they seek it, and you will never be enough. You will never be given enough love and attention, and they'll seek it elsewhere, and it'll never be enough for them. And those are the type of girls you're almost guaranteed are going to go sideways on you.
Yeah, the other one that you want to look out for is also notch count, and this is really significant, and it really drives a lot of women batshit crazy, because they think that
stats don't lie.
Stats don't lie. So if you take woman A, who was 14 when she lost her virginity and has a notch count of 100 guys, and woman B, who lost her virginity at 20 and has a notch count of 3. Okay, she was in back-to-back long-term relationships, and that was it. Woman B is a far better choice for wife stock, for mother stock, whatever you want to call it, because she can form a healthy pair bond to a male, whereas the woman that's been riding the carousel and banged 100 guys, it's difficult for her to form a healthy attachment to a guy. If things aren't going her way, guess what? Guy number 101 is just around the corner, who will be the next thirsty beta that will give her all the attention that she wants in the money, because women are used to that their entire lives. So, if you're talking about, vetting for a wife or for a woman to have your kids with, a woman that's got a large notch count, that lost her virginity at a young age, has a very low probability of being in a long-term healthy marriage with you.
Yeah, and bears out the data. I remember seeing charts where they asked women about how many sexual partners they had, and it's like a direct correlation from virgin to plus 20 notch count. That was actually quite an eye opener for me. But and of course it makes sense, but we've been brainwashed for the last 50 years through feminist indoctrination to believe that men and women are equal, and just because men can sleep with a load of birds and still pair bond.
We're not equal. We're not the same. We're different, but we're complementary. One of the things that I wanted to say about the notch count situation is one of the problems that you're going to deal with women with a very high notch count. If you set aside a higher probability of having an STD or other things like that, is they often have more personality disorders than women with lower notch counts. So borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, like all of these personality disorders. There's a really good book that a FBI profiler wrote called The 4 Dangerous Personality Types. His name's Joe Navarro. I definitely recommend you guys read that if you want to avoid inviting crazy into your life.
Is that like psychopathy?
Yeah, psychopathy, narcissism, Machiavellism, and yes. I think borderline was the other one or something like that.
Yeah, I think that sounds familiar. And anecdotally, sorry, I pronounced that word wrong. I find that the women who, in my experience, who've racketed up like over 100 men by their mid-20s, I find usually there's 3 reasons why that is the case. And I think maybe the fact that they've slept with a lot of people that's not the reason why maybe they have something. It's sort of a result of having something in the first place. But the 3 things I've noticed just from talking to these type of girls: 1, either completely brainwashed by third wave feminism and they're trying to prove something, which is actually one of the rarer types. 2 is daddy issues, women whose dad wasn't around or they didn't have dad's love. Or 3, and this is an unfortunate one, and I found this to be the case in And a lot of women who rack up the counts is they were sexually abused as well. Sexual abuse when they're younger tends to lead to behavior which is very kind of slutty, because they want to minimize the significance of the sexual experience, and thus maybe they can downplay what kind of abuse they experienced in childhood. And that's and sadly all of these things, well, except for the feminist thing, but they can't be fixed. They can't be fixed, and that's kind of
you can't fix them whatsoever. You're not supposed to swoop in and play Captain Save-A-Ho or any of those things. One of the things that I wanted to say is men can have a notch count of 1,000, okay, and it doesn't matter. It really doesn't have that much of a difference as far as bearing, because women are concerned with men's future. You know, what is your future ability to provide, protect, you know, preside over the family? You know, do you have good genes? That's really what they're looking at. But men should be considered with a woman's past, right? Like, you need to pay attention to what she's been doing with her life, how many guys she's banged, and, you know, to the point of like getting an honest number. Excuse me, you're probably never going to get it. So it's like, you know, like when you ask a woman, well, how many guys have you slept with? I mean, first of all, it's a dumb question. You don't want to ask it. She'll probably bring it up first. But if you get into the conversation, she'll be like, I don't know, like 20 guys sort of thing. Well, when she's counting 20 in her head, she's basically counting every guy that she can recall that she had a longer term connection with. She was either girlfriend, boyfriend, she was living with the guy, she might have had a 3-month fling with the guy. She doesn't count stuff that she can't remember, like one night stands, lesbian encounters, threesomes, foursomes, fivesomes, you know, the time that she banged the Mexican pirate in the alleyway sort of thing with the swords and all that. She doesn't remember all those when she's spitting out 20. So whatever number you get, you can pretty much double it or even triple it, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And guys, do not ask that question. You never want to know. You never want to know.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell as well by if she has tattoos. That's another red flag, by the way, I consider as well, tattoos, especially visible tattoos. I know they're quite
Women
common
hate
now,
it when you tell them that tattoos are a red flag, though.
They so are, though. They so are. God, because they're so common now.
But hey, listen, you know, the bomber only gets flack when it's over the target, right? So when you start talking about things that they get offended by, it's like, okay, we're over the target now.
Yeah, exactly. Mike makes a good point here. My experience, by the way, just before I read this out, Mike mentioned earlier, if he was getting married again, he'd go for a Colombian and or a Filipina. Guys, in Philippines, divorce is actually illegal. So at least that's one place where, you know, you won't get screwed up in divorce. So just a heads up. Also, it's a very but bring her back home, or you're going to be in trouble. But also it's a very feminine place. But he says, in my experience, the crazy ones in the bedroom are usually also crazy in public. Is it possible to find a girl that has the best of both worlds?
Crazy in the head, crazy in the bed, right? It's pretty common.
Yeah.
Are you going to get sane in the streets and crazy in the bed? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I've seen it a few times, but there's definitely a direct correlation between, you know, she's going to bang you on the first date within 20 minutes of meeting you. She's got sleeve tattoos, you know, different piercings all over her body and a notch count of 100. You know, she's going to be crazy everywhere else. It's, you know, you don't want to invite that into your personal life on a long-term basis. I mean, if you want to date her, you want to spin her as a plate, like date, you know, multiple women non-monogamously, fine. But as soon as you start to realize that she's, you know, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, you got to be done with her. Like, you got to get rid of it. It doesn't matter how great I don't care if she can suck the chrome off a trailer hitch. You got to get rid of her. Like, you have to be disciplined and set proper boundaries.
Yeah, hopefully this is getting through to some guys, because you can tell guys this all day long and they'll make the same mistakes again and again and again, because they don't think with their heads, they think with their emotions, or they think with their dicks. And that's kind of what we're brought up. You know, it's the Disney thing, which they go with their feelings, but you actually have to be quite cold and logical. Maybe the person you're attracted to most isn't the person you should go with. You should go with the person who you should read it like a CV, especially if you're going to be starting a family. And you have no interest whatsoever you already have a daughter, right?
Yeah, I'd never get married again. That's always a question that somebody asked me is, you know, would you ever get married? It's like, it's not even no, it's like a F. Like, I would yell F no at the top of my lungs if it wouldn't create a problem for you on YouTube, but you get the point, right?
I don't care. Go for it.
Fuck no. It's like a fuck no, right? It is probably the dumbest thing that I see guys do is they get divorced, they barely survive the divorce grinder, they don't learn a single lesson the entire time, and then they go and wife up somebody else. Usually a single mommy with kids in tow, sometimes from different fathers, and then it just ends up even worse, the second time around, and they don't know when to stop. And it's like, if you keep marching into the slaughterhouse and getting crap results, you have nobody to blame but yourself. You have to wake up and kind of shake it off and like understand, okay, well, if I keep getting these crap results, there's something wrong with my beliefs. Like I believe something, to be true that obviously doesn't work. Like, just wife her up and, till death do us part, and richer and poorer, and sickness and health, and she'll never leave, and she'll always enthusiastically fuck me, and she'll always be in my frame and never, treat me like crap or disrespect me. It's like, no, dude, you don't understand women. So, like marriage is something that, I mean, even if you wanted to have kids, like even if you said, like, I want to be a father, I found a good wife, I vetted her, she's a good person, she doesn't have any of the red flags, Rich, should I get married? I'd still say no. I'd still say, if you want to have kids, do it, but don't invite the state into your household, because as soon as you sign a marriage contract and you go and get married, it doesn't matter if it's just in the church, but you've invited the state into your household. In fact, in many places, with common law, if you've lived together long enough and you have a kid, you're basically deemed married anyway. So it doesn't even matter if you get married or not, to be honest with you, at the end of the day. But it's just, you're just inviting that extra nonsense in your life. I mean, a wedding ceremony for women is something that's just a big party to spend $200,000 on in some cases. I don't know what the average cost of a wedding is right now, but it's fucking expensive, for a party.
Yeah, and I always thought the only circumstance where I see any sort of benefit in getting married would be, let's say it's an immigration thing, or maybe she's from like a super religious background. Her parents are like from Oman or something, or Bahrain or Kuwait, and if you don't get married, they're literally going to hunt you down and slit your throat. Well, if you found someone that, and if you do, even with either of those circumstances, like you should always have a prenup and get married in a country that it's legally tight, because there are countries where so it only on like a 0.01% of circumstances would I consider that for guys, but otherwise I think you're kind of right. But the thing is, society and families and also other men, there's so much conditioning into this is what you must do, and it's hard to convince people to unplug, which is why is that the reason why you wrote this book? Because it's sort of like an introduction.
Yeah, it's about unplugging from the lies, right? I mean, if you want to become an unplugged alpha, the book's a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And what like, why did you decide to write it actually? Because what was your incentive? Why did you say, I'm going to write a book?
Well, there's a lot of videos that I've put out that just get lost in the sands of time. Like the YouTube algorithms aren't particularly friendly once a week or two goes by, unless it gets picked up. But I basically wanted to distill everything that I've learned from my videos, from my one-on-one coaching calls, even from my own life, where I've made my own wounds my work, and to just kind of slam it into a book that's 200 pages. It's easy to read in a day, that will help guys understand these basic concepts. It's really just, a book will be on my shelf after I'm long gone and dust in the ground. Doesn't matter. I mean, it's just a piece that's hopefully never going to go anywhere. That's why I usually tell guys to, rather than buy the Kindle, even though it costs less, get the paperback, because at least it's always going to be there. I mean, Amazon could at some point unilaterally say, you know what, we don't like this guy's content. It's whatever. So we're going to take it off the bookstore. Yeah.
It's, and I'm paranoid about that kind of stuff as well. I mean, I got stuff in there. I got my first book, drug smuggling and doing all sorts of naughtiness, and it could just take a Twitter mob to go against you to say, "Hey, get him, cancel culture."
Yep.
I know you're going to do the audiobook next year. I'm in the middle of doing my audiobook. Whoa, it's a slog, man. Just set aside a bit of time for that, because it's a lot more work than you'd expect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a cool.
I'm actually doing it this year. I should have it done in the next 60 days, hopefully.
Are you gonna read it yourself, or are you gonna outsource?
I am reading it myself. Yeah.
Okay.
I tried to get Samuel L. Jackson, but the dude wouldn't respond to me, so I was like, all right, I'll just do it myself.
Dick. Come on, Samuel. Help a brother out. Come on. Sorry, that's not the. This is the. Yes. What about a woman that uses profanity? Red flag?
Not really.
Excessively.
I mean, It depends on the profanity, right? I mean, like we
How
use
often?
swear words all the time today. Is it with distaste? You know, is she doing it around your family in an inappropriate way? You know, uh, I wouldn't worry about that too much. I mean, there's far bigger red flags out there. In fact, I didn't even put profanity in the 20 red flags. So if you want to see what the 20
Yeah.
are, you can go get that from my email list.
It's a yellow flag, maybe. If they do it too much, it's a yellow flag. This
Well, I
is a
mean,
good question.
I mean, if she talks like a truck driver, like,
Yeah.
you know, she's from the ghetto or something like that, then I'd be like, okay, you know, do I really want to, like, I make bank and I can go and do cool shit, right? Like I hang out with friends that like have nice boats and stuff like that, or private planes. Like I'm not going to bring trailer trash with me to something like that, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I actually got a sailboat there last year. Tried to sail it back to Malta from France, and I had to get rescued by the Italian Coast Guard. It was
Yeah, I saw something about you being a sailor. Do you have a sailboat or?
yeah. I have a sailboat. It's getting repaired in Sardinia at the minute. Yeah.
Interesting. I've been
After,
watching a lot of sailing videos lately.
oh man, you should definitely talk about freedom, especially when the lockdowns. That kind of inspired me to get my skipper's license, because I didn't know anything about sailing, and I was like, you know what? I hate the airports are closed, and I live in the tiny island of Malta, so I couldn't go anywhere. The place is tiny. I was like, I'm not letting the government or anyone else decide where I can go and when. So I was like, I'm gonna get myself a boat.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, the wind is free. You're sleeping there. You can cook. You can catch fish. You can even convert rainwater. So it's really off the grid. You can live pure. It's kind of my ultimate expression of freedom. So that's why I really like the idea of it.
Yeah, I get that vibe.
Speaking of which, this kind of talks about future and travel and this stuff. When your daughter grows up, would you leave Canada for greener pastures? Like, have you ever thought about living in Thailand or South America or anything like that?
I'll probably be leaving Canada at least for the winters. Yeah, for sure. I mean, Canada's a shit place to live, if I'm being honest. The taxes are really high. The weather sucks in the wintertime. It's
Where you
very
living?
socialist.
In
Toronto.
Toronto, yeah. I actually like Toronto. I was there 2 years ago, but I was there in the summertime, and it was only for 3 days. So I got a very rosy picture of it.
Yeah. It's a very like socialist, sort of liberal, feminist sort of culture here.
It's a lot of young people as well. It's mainly for like a lot of students and that.
Yeah,
kind of
Toronto. Well, Toronto's a big city. I don't know what the count is now. It's like 6, 7, or 8 million or something like that. And there's a lot of like this leftist stuff down there where they just don't value masculinity, or if you don't like come out for the rainbow parade and paint your face with rainbows and shit like that, then they look at you funny. Like, look, I just want to be left alone. Like, keep your hands out of my pocket. Stop taxing me the way that you do, and just leave me the fuck alone. It's just my policy.
Where, if you could spend the winters anywhere, what would be on the top of your list? Like, what places?
It's definitely going to be near water, and it's going to be warm. Mountains would be nice too, but those would be the minimum criteria. At this point, I can't even go anywhere. Like, we're in full quarantine here. Like, they're even talking about introducing curfews here again.
Yeah, that's where I live. And if you're ever interested, Malta's a great place. I mean, it's right by Tunisia, off the coast of Sicily. Live by the water as well. It's a nice lifestyle, and it's old wall cities, and it's absolutely beautiful. If you're from what you're describing, it's Cartagena is another nice place because it's got that it's got the vibe maybe you're looking for. There's so many places if you want. I mean, just south of you. Yeah, I mean, what kind of the good thing I like about Toronto, I'll tell you why I was interested in it. It's super multicultural, so it's in terms of the dating scene there. You can date like Venezuelans, you can date Asians, Africans. You can it's a smorgasbord over there. It's like New York a bit like that.
I agree. Yeah.
What kind of girls are you into yourself?
Well, I've gone through the Eastern European phase. I had Serbian, Croatian, Russian. I was in an LTR with a Croatian girl for a few years. They're very pretty women, but the strange thing that I noticed about them is there's almost a sadness to the culture, especially like in my age range when I was dating them in my 20s. Like, I'm 47 now, so this was like 20 years ago. They were still like just coming out of communism, and like there was always something wrong. There was always something to be pissed off at, for some reason, even though they were very pretty. It was just like there's a lot of fucking like negativity that I didn't want to deal with. I don't really discriminate. Like, I like, obviously, like my mom's basically Greek Italian, my dad's Northwestern European. I was born in England, so I'm very familiar with British Isles culture, very familiar with Mediterranean. You know, I like Asian women. You know, whatever.
Who doesn't?
Some people don't like Asian women. I don't know why.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I went from yellow fever to jungle fever when I went through Africa, and didn't quite get over that one. But the Latinas are good because they're small like Latinas, but they got curves like the Africans.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah, curves curves are something that like feminine female curves are something that are almost completely absent today, because like you pointed out earlier at the start of the cast, like if you meet 100 women, there's barely one that's worth a second date. They don't look like their photographs. You know, they've got an attitude. There's entitlement issues. They got daddy issues. They've got 3,000.
In North America, no,
they've got 3 kids from 3 different fathers. Like, I mean, there's all kinds of disqualifiers that you have to deal with, you know, when you're dating.
OnlyFans account.
OnlyFans account. Yeah, you know.
Just do a little porn. It's only a little.
You know what? Do the OnlyFans, but just give me the money.
Yeah. Well, that's not a bad situation. But all right. So what do you think if a woman is much wealthier than you and comes from a very rich family? Does that stop a lot of incentives for divorce?
So that's a great point. If you're going to marry, like a good insurance policy is to marry up. So to marry somebody that has at least the same kind of lifestyle or income or assets that they bring to the table that you bring. The problem is that women are hypergamous. So all that means is they only ever date across and up. So using Kevin from, you know, the sales department, like we used earlier, that makes $250,000 a year, that meets the girl at the front desk at the insurance agency making $40,000 a year. That's pretty common. Like that is the norm rather than the exception. It's the exception to find a beautiful woman that brings a ton of assets and resources to the table that would be willing to settle with a guy that makes the same or less than her. Women hate being with guys that are less than them. They want to be with giants. They want to be with men that are better off than them. That's what hypergamy is. So the chances of something like that happen is quite slim.
Yeah, and the only time I've kind of seen that is when the girl is really not great. Like maybe she's like a 6 and the guy is like an 8 or 9, and he's basically just like the male equivalent of a gold digger, and he's just using his looks to get in there. Yeah. And that's not really a fun life. It's not worth it. The juice is not worth the squeeze.
No.
Like, do you really want to be pork at that, guys? No. I have another question here. What do you think about women from the Balkans, Serbia, Macedonia? How are they different to other cultures, Western culture, or the Philippines?
That's probably a better question for you because you've traveled a lot more than I have.
Yeah. Well, I said you've experienced the Balkans are a bit warmer than the Eastern Slavs, like the Russians, the Ukrainians, the Belarusians. Serbs are a lot warmer, a lot friendlier. They kind of got more of that Mediterranean vibe about them, but they have the looks of the Ukrainians. So I'm all for Serbs there. And Macedonia, they're a little bit more conservative than the Serbs, so even better again, because the Serbs can be a little bit they like to party, let's say that. But Macedonia is a really good one for it meets in the middle. And also Bosnia is a good option. But that part of the world has some really, really good girls for sure. And in terms of Philippines, I mean, that's radical. Philippines is Catholic. They're kind of like the Latinas of Southeast Asia. If I had to retire anywhere in the world when I'm like 50 and I had no family, I'd probably move to the Philippines. So hopefully that maybe helps that gentleman there. Okay. How would you? Oh, I got a hair transplant. Screw you, Travis, for putting this out. Hey, Rich, how would you rate Naughty's hair transplants? Yeah,
I didn't even know you had a hair transplant.
Yeah, I got it in January, actually. Yeah, so okay. I wasn't bad, but
where do they get the hair from? Do they take strips out the back, or do they do?
Yeah, they didn't take strips. They took in individual things. You got it in Turkey, man. It's so handy. So many people I know now are doing that since I told them about it, because it's in Turkey. You got the best doctors in the world. It's actually quite cheap, and it's a painless. I mean, it's 10 minutes of pain where they numb you, but it's a great thing. I mean, I'm all for fighting age. I'll screw this like aging classy. I'm like, oh, give me that TRT, put that extra hair on. I'm all for like, I'm not gonna let myself myself go. And that's actually a good segue onto health, because what I like about your content, you're not just talking about hypergamy and dating and stuff. You're all like really positive, and you're really into health as well, health, wealth, relationships. You kind of focus on the holistic aspects of things. And well, like, what's your exercise routine like? Because you're in really good shape for your age, I must say. What do you could use, strength training or?
Yeah, I mostly do strength training. Like I have a rack in my basement now. I found a metal worker because all the gyms have been closed here. You can't order any kind of fitness equipment. They're all sold out. So I had a metal worker build me a squat rack. So now I've got pretty much everything I need. I put a cable system in. I got off Amazon, so I can do cable work. I got a bench, some dumbbells. So I just do strength training in my own basement, which is pretty convenient because I just go down there for 45 minutes a day, throw some weights around. And, sometimes I'll go outside if the weather's not too fucking cold or, raining or snowing, then I'll just go for a walk to get some fresh air. But that's really about it. It's really just about diet, sleep, and exercise.
You do like 5x5, that kind of thing?
I don't really follow any specific routine. Like, I mean, you probably saw my pictures on Instagram, which is, I think, what you were referencing. But I've always just kind of had like a way with weights. Like even when I was a teenager, I used to do loads and loads of push-ups, right? Like just push-ups and air squats and air boxing. Like even when I didn't have weights, there's this program my dad gave me from a guy that was I think he was known as Charles Atlas, which was probably a made up name, but he had this program called dynamic tensions. And you basically would do like you push your fists, together like this to kind of do your chest and your tries, or you'd maybe like lock your arm like this. Sorry, the camera's over here, but do like curls, sort of thing. So, I mean, like you can get plenty of exercise done if you're intent on getting it done. A lot of guys are like, well, how do I look like you, Rich? Like, how do I stay healthy and fit? And it's like, move more, eat better. You know what you need to do. Like, I don't need to fucking lay out a program for you. You know what needs to be done. Just go do it.
Absolutely. And do you do any like martial arts, or have you been interested?
Again, the dojos are all closed too, right? So I used to do Krav Maga and boxing.
Oh, me too. I used to do Krav Maga as well, actually.
Yeah, it's like I figured if I'm going to travel around the world and go to some dangerous places, it's kind of pointless being strong and being able to throw around heavy weights if I can't fuck somebody up pretty bad. So I figured Krav Maga was a good thing to learn, and learn some striking skills with boxing, learn how to disarm somebody if they want to put a knife at you or try to rob you. So that's really the only reason why I did, is because I mean, you want to be able to have some form of lethality. I even put a chapter in the book talking about why men need to be dangerous in today's world. I mean, to sum it up, basically women love dangerous men.
Yeah, and what really got me into this kind of, because I was kind of game first. I got really good with girls, and I used to do well with girls with like a bit of a beer belly and out of shape. And
there's lots of pickup artists out there. Like what's his name, Tyler Durden. Owen Cook. Like, he's fat, right?
Yeah, but it's all game, and that's why I don't like the MLS guys, because it's like game works. But it is important to develop other aspects of yourself, of course, but game definitely works. But the thing that got me into the weights and martial arts and stuff was actually Jack Donovan's book, The Way of Man. That was hugely influential on me. And it was a conversation with Jack. He got me to start martial arts. He got me into jiu-jitsu.
That's fucking Jack, dude. Like I've met him a few times. He's big.
Yeah, man, he's doing jiu-jitsu now as well, actually. You say you're thinking about, like, if you're going around to dangerous places. I'm going to Afghanistan next month. If you want to come along.
No, I'm good. You have fun with that.
What kind of dangerous places were you thinking when you?
I don't know. Like, there's certain cities that you can go to. You don't know the area. You might end up in a bad neighborhood or something like that, and
happens,
somebody pulls a gun or a knife on you and they want to rob you, right? If there's just one of them, I'll fucking take them down, right? I mean, if there's 3 or 4 of them, I'll probably try to run away, but. There's certain things that you can do in different environments, and a lot of guys don't know what to do, right? They'll just kind of freeze and like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? It's like, this is hostile. They don't know what to fucking do with stuff like that. And it's like, like the burden of performance is on men. You have to learn all of these skills as a guy. All that women need to do is show up and look pretty. That's really the extent of the work that they have to do, is just look pretty. Guys need to be funny. They need to be handyman. They need to be strong. They need to be masculine. They need to be competent. They need to be able to make money. They need to be able to fuck somebody up. Like, there's a long laundry list of requirements that women expect of guys. It's just nuts.
Which is why you need this book, guys.
Yeah. Buy it now.
For sure. No problem. Plug. But no, seriously,
Yeah.
because I like the holistic aspect you take about masculine development. Because guys do need to get strong, and they do need to be dangerous. Because guys, if you do what I do when you go to dangerous places, I have been robbed so many times, and there's so many times where I would have loved to have the confidence behind me. Where now, having like I only had some minor physical altercations, but I've never gotten like beaten up, but I've been in situations where like if I had the skills at the time, I would have murdered the guy basically. So so I definitely think if you guys are going to go traveling, like Rich said, like you need to be prepared because it does happen. It's not like see so many travel videos and travel bloggers and YouTubers where when they're traveling to places that are questionable, it's all like upbeat dancey music and everything's just sunshine and rainbows. But guys, shit goes down off the cameras. It always does. They don't film the bit where they get robbed or the girl goes home with them and then steals money from their wallet, or they don't show that kind of stuff. We've got a few more questions here. What's the most scalable way to meet high quality women these days? Almost all men I know that do this have some sort of personal brand or popular in a certain niche. I guess we could take this from a Western perspective. Because what do you have any answers for Darko there?
Well, he's talking about high quality women, so I would first ask him to define what high quality woman is. I mean, to me, that's a hot chick. That's
I think that's what he means.
She's fit. She's not a feminazi. She's beautiful. She's of course feminine. All that stuff, right? So if you want to attract a attractive woman, you've got to be a high value guy because again, women are hypergamous. They only date across and up. I put some data in my book, inclusive of what came out of swiping apps, and it reveals that women that would be rated 3 and greater out of 10, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So a 3 out of 10 only swipes right on guys that are 8 out of 10. So to put that in perspective, if you take a look in the mirror and you're like a 6 out of 10, you're fucked. I mean, you're wasting your time on dating apps. Don't even bother. Your best ROI, and my friend Aaron Cleary just basically wrote a book on the book of numbers right now. You can grab that off Amazon too. But your best ROI is on chasing excellence and improving yourself. That's where you're going to get the best results. If you want to have an abundance of hot women, if you want to be able to pick up your phone and text any one of them and say, yo, come on over on Thursday night and wear that black dress and don't say a word for me, and I want you to do this, that, and the other thing sexually for me before you even open up your mouth, she'll do it. There's lots of women out there like that, trust me, but you have to be a high enough value guy for her to enter your frame and want to do something like that. So again, the ROI is work on yourself.
Yeah, and you hit home with something I always say again and again and again. Guys, get off your stupid apps and go talk to real people. You'll sell yourself short unless you're like a professional model and you're just going to slay on Instagram or whatever, or you're really got a lot going for you, lifestyle, and you can show it off on Insta and really build up value through social media platform like Instagram. In terms of Tinder and stuff, don't even bother. Like, go out and talk to people. There's so many guys now, especially since we got dating apps, who would never talk to girls. The instances of men approaching women is probably at an all-time low in real life. Now, I know it's hard to quarantine right now, but if guys learn game and approach, you sell yourself short online, you will do better in real life. But at the same time, you also need to work on everything else, which is why we have men like Rich to help our lads out with some good advice. What we got another one. How do you avoid injury training at 47? Travis asks. That's going back to the workout thing, I guess.
Well, you have to know your body. You have to know your body. I mean, like, what is your body capable of? I mean, when you start to feel pain, that's your body saying, yo, buddy, slow the fuck down, right? It's not really even a question that I even think about, right? I just
leave your ego at the door.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't try to like squat 3 plates anymore. I don't even fucking, like, that's stupid. Like, my back's not good for that. My left knee is not the greatest. So, I mean, you train within your capacity, right? I mean, I train for mobility and for flexibility and for health and stuff like that. I don't train to look like a bodybuilder anymore.
Yeah, I mean, as you get older, it's just, I mean, you look good, bro. You don't need to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. To be honest, I think
To be honest,
you're
women
you're just
don't even like that. Like women
yeah,
want a guy that looks like Michael Phelps. They want a swimmer's body. They don't want a bodybuilder. They don't want a scrawny guy. What they want is a guy with a V taper, broad shoulders, narrow waist, and some muscle, and that's it.
yeah. Pull-ups, guys. Plenty of
Yeah.
pull-ups. Water Piglet. I'm not going to even try to pronounce that name. To add to the question, what's a good passive way to meet women without going to them first? Okay, bro. Obviously, it's hard to become as a popular actor or musician, but there must be a more predictable way. What I'm hearing is fear, man. That's what I'm hearing. You don't want to go and approach someone because you're afraid of being rejected. And so that sounds like a confidence issue. Again, this is intrinsic thing, an internal thing, and which is why I think you should, get into or read books like Richard's or The Way of Men. Develop yourself as a person, get that confidence, and also read game books as well. Read the classics of Venusian Arts Handbook by Mystery and The Game, and try and find like-minded men with a growth mindset that you can go out and practice with, and you need to get rejected. The most successful men are the ones who get rejected the most. That's what you have to realize. You think all the guys who are killing it are not getting rejected? Yeah, they are. They're getting rejected more than anybody. So if you can't face rejection, you're never gonna get better. And that's what I have to say. Any add into that?
Yeah, I can add more to that, but I also have to go in about 5 minutes. So just
yeah, no problem.
So just like one thing that you got to understand is there are women that will, passively chase after guys that will slide into your DMs or email you and just say you're hot. I'm attracted to you, and they'll start sending you, dirty pictures. Again, you have to be a high value guy. Like she has to look at you and basically go like, this guy is my best possible option, sort of thing. So I'm sure it happens with actors and musicians. I've had it happen a few times, and trust me, none of my social media is geared towards like a high value Instagram that would draw in attractive models like yours. Mine is like more flicking boogers at feminists and like pointing to facts that like help guys understand.
I see memes.
Yeah, like I make fun of a lot of people on my social media, for the most part. So I don't get a lot of women sliding into my DMs, but every time that it's happened, they're always crazy. They like, you do not want these fucking women in your life for the most part. Trust me.
Yeah, because I have some experience with groupies, and often they're the type, if they value your follower count and they find you attractive for that, they're usually a lot of times they're trying to piggyback as well. There's opportunists out there, but if they view that as valuable, that's sort of a red flag. So the online game has its place, especially if you just want to have some fun. But yeah. Anyway, guys, so just one more time, the Unplugged Alpha, the no bullshit guide to winning with women and life. I mean, look at those reviews. Look at those 323. Man, you must be killing it, and it's so fast as well. Congratulations, congratulations, man. That's fantastic. Just so people know where they can find you, I think I have your Twitter up here, but if you want to add to this.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram is probably where I'm just as active. Entrepreneurs in Cars, or just search for Richard Cooper. But more specifically, go to the YouTube channel and definitely grab the book. You will be delighted and entertained all at the same time. I hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, guys, and thank you very much for all your questions. Appreciate you listening in. And yeah, Richard, absolute pleasure, and take care and best luck in future endeavors.
Thanks, brother.
Okay, guys.